Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to A Wing and a Prayer Radio. I'm Lance Parvin. Change of plans today. We're going to have John Grip in studio. He's going to be here this upcoming weekend. Poor guy was sick with a sinus infection. So I have another guest in studio today, Karen Knowles. She's going to say hello.
Hello.
Thank you for being here. She's all the way here from Miami. That must have been a long trip. How long was it?
It's about 4.5 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I figured we'd start the questions very basic with, let's talk about your testimony. How's that? First, what do you do for a living, if you're allowed to tell us?
Well, I'm a flight attendant.
Flight attendant. How does that kind of interact with your faith? Do you find yourself being tested daily?
Yes, definitely. It's a very dark work environment, so I feel like God can really use me there.
Well, you definitely come across a lot of people, I'm sure of that. So if you wouldn't mind, tell us a little about your testimony, whatever you'd like to share.
Well, I was raised in a Christian home. Both of my parents are believers, and my sister is a believer. I was baptized when I was 7, just because I felt like that was the right thing to do. My sister got baptized when she was 7. All my friends were Christians, and I really did. I believed in God, and that's all I knew. So I just felt like that was the right thing to do, and continued to grow up going to church 3 times a week, and singing in the youth choir, and then I remember one Sunday when I was 16, I just realized that I'm being a good person. I'm going to church, and I don't really want to read my Bible. I was like, why am I trying to be a good person? What's the point? And I didn't want to go to church that day, and I remember telling my mom that I was going to tell her that I didn't feel good, and then I could just go home and I wouldn't have to go to church that day. But for some reason I stayed, and that was the day that God revealed himself to me. And the sermon that day was about a man who knew all about God, had all of this head knowledge of who God was, but he didn't have a relationship with God. He didn't have a personal relationship with him. And I realized that's me. I know all about God. I've been going to church 3 times a week since I was born, but I don't have a personal relationship with God. And that's when I gave my life to him that day. And since then, he took me from being a shy, quiet, just afraid to talk to anybody, and I became a worship leader and a missionary, and
That's quite a dramatic change. And I think a lot of people actually have that same issue, is that they know they can identify Christ, but do they really have a relationship with him? And we see this a lot when we talk to different people, and we find that people are like, well, I know about Jesus. It's like, well, are you following him? And then you'll say something like, well, I had no idea that was real. So, I mean, what are some things that you recommend for people that are, they're like, well, how do I have this relationship with God? Most people, again, the way they're brought up, it's a different thing because it's a personal relationship. It's not through someone else. And most people are taught, it doesn't matter what, let's say their spiritual background is, their faith background, that they have to go through another person to get to Christ, which is not the truth at all. What are some comments or hints you can give to people, especially being a worship leader and working with many different people?
Well, I mean, it's not about religion, it's not, going to church is good, being around other believers is good, but that doesn't make you a Christian. I remember one of my Sunday school teachers used to say, going through the drive-thru at McDonald's doesn't make you a Happy Meal, and sitting in your garage doesn't make you a car. Going to church does not make you a Christian. And it never really sunk in until later on, but it's not about following a list of rules. It's not like, okay, if I pray and I read my Bible and I sing in the choir and I go to church, then that makes me a Christian. It's not about that. No. It's about surrendering your life to God and just giving it up, To find true life, you have to lay down your
Very
life.
well. Look at you. Well put. I mean, and that's a key thing, is that there's a difference of going to a location doesn't change. It's a sincerity in your heart, which is how you worship. Because some people don't get to church and feel like, well, that person's not doing this. But, I think it's good because it gives people hope, and it's truth for people when they actually start hearing about, well, wow, I can have a direct relationship. You do have a direct relationship with God, when you seek him. But I think it's been conditioned into people where they think, well, no, he's not going to forgive me. I've done too much. I've fallen too far. And that's not true at all. I mean, I think it's very difficult in this day and age because you're surrounded by lies. And so there is a very narrow path, and people like yourself are lights to help kind of guide people to that stuff. And you really don't realize how valuable you are until, you touch one person. You're like, oh, you'll sow a seed, and then God helps you see it grow. Something that's beautiful. You're like, oh, I had no idea like that person was actually hearing me.
Yeah.
How can people access some of the stuff? I mean, like I said, if they're not located in Miami, are there ways that people can actually hear some of the things that you're doing online? Do you have online access that people can access you with?
No, I mean, I have an Instagram page.
Oh, that's something.
You can
That's
follow
something.
me on Instagram, Karen Knowles, or Karen.Knowles, I think.
You know
Anyway.
better than I do. Now, do you have, I heard you had a musical talent. We're not going to make you sing on the show, don't worry. But we all have different kind of gifts that God's given us. And I know that with certain things, do you feel sometimes music can help get a point across for different people? Because a lot of times we run into this question of, what can I do? Why do people want to listen to me? Versus, so what kind of an answer would you give someone
Well, I
like
mean,
that?
I'm not a wonderful musician. I mean, I feel like God has gifted me in that way, but I know lots of people who can sing better than me, but it's not about that. It's about your heart. And I would say, just seek God's will for your life. And when he tells you, lays a song on your heart to share with someone, then do it. And you never know who you might touch, who needs to hear it. And that's another thing God has been teaching me, is that God gives all of us gifts. And sometimes we don't realize we have them, but he gives us gifts to use for other believers and to reach out to people, not just to keep to ourselves. So if God has given you a gift, whether that's writing or speaking or music or building things, whatever it is, and you know that that's a gift that you have and you enjoy doing it, don't keep it to yourself. You need to start doing it, and just allowing God to use that to reach out to other people.
It's like that parable with the servants and the coins.
Yeah.
Right? And the one was given a coin, went out and got 10, the other one got 5, and the other one kept it to himself and buried it in a napkin. And that's the key thing, is that you were given, right? You were hidden in the earth. You were given a gift to share with other people to help further the kingdom of God. Keep that in mind. The gifts are not your own. They were gifts that was given to us for a very specific purpose. And it's interesting when you're using them for His will, your life makes a lot more sense. I think a lot of people are searching for truth in this, and nowadays it's even more confusing. So when you can get out there and actually see, it's like, wait a minute, now I understand why my gift is kind of coming into fruition and makes more sense of my purpose and things like this.
Yeah, you definitely have more purpose in life when your gifts and talents and align with God's will. That's when you really find out who you are and what you've been put on this earth for sure. Yeah.
Perfect. Look at that, summing it all up. One more question, because I know you're running all over the place. You work with youth. Is there a problem that you're seeing more of now, or ways that maybe young people, things that you can address? Because a lot of different listeners don't know some of the things that are out there. I mean, we see darkness. It's not really so much of, there's darkness out there. We know that we're light in the darkness, but maybe something that people can address or are not aware of, or ways that you found to kind of reach just you yourself. Obviously, we're all different.
I think teenagers are really hungry for the truth. They really, there's so much social media and all of these things are in their face, from TV, Instagram, Snapchat. But they're really searching for something more than that. They know that there's more. They know that there's purpose, and they just need somebody to share that with them. They need somebody to listen, somebody to be there for them, because I've noticed there's a big breakdown in the family. A lot of their struggles just come from not having a good family life. So they really need somebody to step in and be that for them and show them the way.
I think that's great. Thank you so much. I heard your manager barking, so I know we have to get you out of here very quickly. That was actually just Maxwell the dog saying hello. Thank you, Karen, so much for stopping by today. And she's laughing. Now she can't even keep a straight face. I really appreciate you sharing your testimony with us today, because, again, we never realize how it's going to reach a person until that one person says, it was that flight attendant. Her testimony changed my life. Yes, flight attendant. Thank you so much for coming by today.
Thanks for having me.
You'll be welcome back anytime you want. We'll talk to you again soon. Until next time, guys, we'll see you this weekend. John Grip will be here, we're hoping, this weekend to give his testimony. We'll see you next time on A Wing and a Prayer. God bless.